Jude flew out of bed in panic. "The hospital," she breathed. "It's time." The rain beat hard on the windscreen as Jude sped through the streets of Lagos. Dorcas clutched the dashboard, groaning with each wave of pain. When they arrived at the private hospital, nurses rushed with a stretcher, wheeling her straight into the maternity ward. Jude kissed her forehead. "You'll be fine. I'll be right outside." But hours passed. The storm outside grew wilder, matching the tension in Jude's chest. And deep inside the ward, behind closed doors and masked faces, something was happening. Something that didn't belong in a place of healing. A strange nurse whose name wasn't on the original staff list entered the delivery room moments after the baby was born. The child had barely cried before she was carried away. "We want to take her for routine checks," she said. Dorcas, exhausted from the strain of labor, never noticed the difference when the baby was returned. Her eyes were hazy, her body weak. "She's beautiful," a nurse smiled, placing the child in her arms. "Congratulations, madam, you have a baby girl." Tears streamed down Dorcas's face. "My Olivia," she whispered. Jude entered minutes later, overjoyed, cradling his daughter like the most fragile treasure in the world, but neither of them knew that wasn't their real baby. Elsewhere in the same hospital, in a cramped public ward, another baby had been handed to a woman barely conscious. Sharon had gone into labor in the back seat of a taxi after her husband, Zach, refused to take her to the hospital until the last possible second. Even then, he only dropped her off and left to catch a drink with the boys, he had mumbled. By the time Sharon regained strength, a baby girl had been placed beside her. Nurses told her she had delivered safely, that her baby was healthy. Sharon wept uncontrollably as she cradled the child. "I'll call you Hannah," she whispered. "You're my light." No one asked questions. No one noticed anything odd. The nurses' faces were hidden behind masks and exhaustion. The swap had been clean, silent, and devastating. Days later, Dorcas and Jude drove home with who they believed was Olivia. Family and friends wait at their gate, ululating, clapping, dancing as they stepped out with the baby wrapped in pink. Champagne bottles popped. Songs filled the air. Olivia was fussy. She cried more than expected, flinched at loud sounds, refused to sleep unless carried. But Dorcas loved her with a mother's fierce instinct. She nursed her, rocked her, sang to her when Jude fell asleep. She tried to ignore the nagging thoughts. Maybe some babies were just different. Meanwhile, in the slums of Mushin, Sharon returned home with Hannah. Their home was a one-room zinc shack with a leaking roof and 3 broken chairs. Zach hadn't returned. Sharon didn't care. She boiled water over firewood, wrapped Hannah in her old wrapper, and sang lullabies her own mother had taught her in the village. "We may not have much," she whispered, "but you will have all my love." It was in the early morning when the convoy of sleek black SUVs rolled into the sleepy village of Umudike. Children paused in their games. Traders stopped mid-chant. Even the goats seemed to scatter, startled by the roar of city engines. To the villagers, it was a rare sight, a convoy that could only mean one of 2 things: a politician seeking votes or a rich man with serious business. And this time, it was the latter. Jude Nwosu, the CEO of Nwosu Group, one of the fastest-growing agro-tech firms in Lagos, stepped out of the vehicle. Tall, clean-shaven, with a face carved like royalty and eyes that didn't miss much, Jude had the aura of someone used to commanding rooms and making deals worth millions. He wore a crisp white kaftan that shimmered softly under the morning sun, and though he looked like someone who belonged in glass towers and 5-star boardrooms, he stepped onto the dusty red soil of Umudike with a calm reverence. He wasn't here to show off. He was here on a mission to acquire fertile land for a new processing facility. But as fate would have it, business wasn't the only thing waiting for Jude in Umudike. Dorcas stood at the junction that led to her family compound, balancing a basket of okra and smoked fish. Her skin was the colour of ripe almonds under the sun, smooth, rich, and glowing with the oil of youth. Her wrapper hugged her waist with modest pride, and her white blouse was clean, ironed, and simple. She was not the kind of beauty that screamed. Her beauty was the kind that sat quietly but held your gaze when you looked upon it, the kind that made you forget your thoughts mid-sentence. Jude saw her as he passed in the car. Just a glimpse, but enough for his eyes to linger longer than they should. "Stop the car," he said softly. His driver hesitated, confused. "I said stop." The driver did as he was told, right beside her. Dorcas looked up, unsure whether to move aside or greet them. She'd seen men like him before, in magazines, on TV, at events she could never afford to attend, but she never expected to see one in her village, much less one stopping beside her like this. "Good morning," Jude said, stepping out of the car. "Good morning, sir," she replied politely, eyes briefly meeting his before falling to the basket in her hands. "Do you live around here?" "Yes, sir. Just down this path." There was a brief silence, and then Jude smiled. "I'm sorry, that was rude. I'm Jude. I'm here on business, but I just can't drive past your beauty without saying hello." Dorcas blinked, unsure whether to be flattered or concerned. "I don't mean to scare you," he added quickly, sensing her confusion. "You just look like someone who doesn't belong here. No offense to your village." She gave a small smile. "None taken. I just finished university. I'm actually planning to move to Lagos next month to find a job." "Oh, really?" His eyes lit up. "What did you study?" "Economics." He let out a low whistle. "Impressive. So, how soon are you planning to come to Lagos?" "Depends on when I can find a place to stay, and a job, of course." Jude nodded slowly. A part of him, the businessman, calculated the odds. A fresh graduate, bright-eyed from a quiet village. No pretenses, no airs. The other part of him, the man, just wanted an excuse to see her again. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "I know this might sound sudden, but I own a company in Lagos. We're actually expanding, and I think someone like you could thrive there. We're hiring research assistants and junior analysts. Would you be willing to come for an interview?" Dorcas stared at the card in her hand. Nwosu Group Limited, Lekki, Lagos. It felt unreal. People didn't just walk up to you on the road and offer you interviews, not unless it was a scam. But he didn't look like a scammer. Her instinct, that quiet whisper inside her, told her he was genuine. I would love to, thank you," she said softly. Jude smiled again, that kind of smile that made you feel seen. "Give me a call when you get to Lagos. I'll personally make sure you're settled in." From that day, Jude found more reasons to visit Umudike than his business required. He would stroll through the village market, pretending to be checking on soil quality, but always hoping to see her again. And he did. At the stream, at the evening church service, and once even under the mango tree where village youths studied for their exams. Each time they spoke, the conversations grew longer. He discovered that Dorcas was more than intelligent. She was thoughtful, deeply curious, and full of dreams. She talked about improving the economic conditions of her people, about building something meaningful for her people. And Jude, who had been surrounded by women who only wanted to ride in his car or attend events in designer dresses, found himself drawn to her simplicity. There was something special about Dorcas. Something real. One evening, as night set upon the village, they sat beneath the mango tree, the soft sounds of crickets beginning to rise. Jude turned to her and said gently, "You know, I came here to grow my business, but I think I found something richer than land." Dorcas looked at him, her heart catching fire in her chest. "Like what?" she asked. He reached for her hand, hesitated, then held it softly. "You?" And just like that it happened. They fell in love, beautifully, completely, and without apology. But their love began to face challenges. When Jude took Dorcas to the city to formally introduce her to his mother, the air grew cold even before they stepped through the front door. Lady Ngozi Nwosu was everything Lagos high society admired. Elegant, poised, and dangerously proud. She sat in her mansion like a queen on a throne, surrounded by marble floors and gold-plated picture frames. Dorcas greeted her with a warm smile and a respectful bow. "Good afternoon, Ma. It's a pleasure to meet you." Ngozi looked her over slowly, from her simple gown to the handbag that was clearly not designer. Her lips curled into the kind of smile that wasn't a smile at all. "Pleasure, I'm sure," she replied curtly. "And what exactly do your people do?" Dorcas glanced nervously at Jude, who reached for her hand beneath the dining table. "My father was a teacher before he passed. My mother sells herbs at the village market." Ngozi didn't respond. She simply raised her wineglass to her lips, as though the conversation had become too poor for her taste. The rest of the evening was painfully silent. In the days that followed, Ngozi made her disapproval known in every way that didn't require words. She invited Jude to exclusive events, always leaving Dorcas out of the guest list. She bought him custom suits, reminding him to dress like the future senator he is, and not like he was headed to a borehole commissioning in the village. Once, when she thought Dorcas wasn't listening, she muttered to her friend over the phone, "This girl from nowhere thinks love is enough." But she forgot mud can never become marble. Dorcas heard, and it broke her. But she didn't give up. She brought food to the house, offered to help around. She asked about Ngosi's favourite music, even her hobbies. She tried. With all her heart, she tried. But nothing melted the older woman's cold heart. One evening, Jude came in, announcing his plan to marry Dorcas. Lady Ngozi dropped her teacup mid-sip, the china shattering against the marble floor. She turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "Marry who?" she asked, her voice cold. "Dorcas," Jude replied firmly. "She's the one I want to spend my life with." Ngozi let out a dry, bitter laugh. "Over my dead body." She rose to her feet, voice sharp as a blade. "You want to disgrace this family with that village girl, a nobody? I warned you, Jude. She is not right for you," she said coldly. "And one day you'll see it." "That woman is not a mistake. She's my peace." Jude replied her, "She's your distraction. What does she know about our world? About power? About legacy? I didn't raise you to throw everything away for a woman who doesn't belong." But Jude had made up his mind. Their wedding was small but beautiful. It took place at a quiet event centre in Lekki, with close friends and a few family members who truly wished them well. Dorcas wore a flowing white lace gown that shimmered like morning dew. Jude couldn't take his eyes off her. As they exchanged vows, Ngozi sat at the back, wearing black. A silent protest. She left before the reception even started. But love doesn't wait for approval. Jude and Dorcas moved into their home, full of laughter, dreams, and the kind of quiet joy that can't be bought. Dorcas got promoted quickly at the firm, proving she wasn't just a pretty face, but a sharp, innovative mind. Jude flourished beside her. They were a team, in business and in life. But while they celebrated their love, a storm was already gathering. Behind the walls of her mansion, Ngozi sat with a glass of wine and a bitter heart. "If I cannot stop her, I will remove her piece by piece," she whispered. She picked up her phone and made a call to a private investigator. "I want everything on her, her family, her friends, her past. If there's nothing there, make something up." And so, the game began. The morning Dorcas found out she was pregnant, it was as if the world paused. The test strip trembled in her hands, her eyes filled with tears as her lips quivered into a slow, disbelieving smile. Jude was in a meeting when she called him. "Baby," she whispered, voice shaky but excited, "you need to come home, now." He rushed back without asking why, and when she placed his hand gently over her belly, he knew. The silence between them was full of joy. "You're sure?" he asked. Dorcas nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. "We're going to be parents." Jude laughed, lifted her into his arms and spun her around the living room like a child. For the first time in a long time, Dorcas felt completely safe. Their dreams were taking form, heartbeat by heartbeat. From the very beginning, Jude was all in. He followed her to prenatal appointments, held her hand through each scan, and decorated the nursery with childish excitement. "You see this cot?" he'd say to guests. "Handmade from Switzerland. My daughter must rest like a queen." Their home was soon filled with tiny clothes, baby books, and a large pink and white sign above the crib. "Welcome, Olivia." 9 months passed in a blink, and on a stormy Friday night, Dorcas felt the first contraction. Jude flew out of bed in panic. "The hospital," she breathed. "It's time." Years passed. Olivia grew up in privilege, private school, ballet classes, vacations in Dubai. But beneath her luxury, Dorcas noticed things she couldn't explain. Olivia was often rude to house staff, uninterested in books, and strangely distant from her parents. "She's just strong-willed," Jude would say, but sometimes Dorcas would sit alone at night, staring at Olivia's baby photos, wondering why her daughter never smiled like other children. Hannah, on the other hand, grew up in hardship but glowed like sunrise. She was obedient, quiet, and exceptionally brilliant. By age 5, she could read anything in the Bible. Her teachers said she was a star. Sharon beamed with pride. When Zach would return drunk and yell, Hannah would hide under the bed, clutching her books. Sharon would hold her close after, whispering, "One day, you'll leave this place and become someone great." And Hannah believed her. Two girls, two destinies, one surrounded by marble floors and chandeliers, the other by cracked cement and candlelight. Both loved, both cherished, both living the life meant for the other. Many years had galloped by like a river in rainy season, and soon the little girls were no longer babies in swaddling cloth. Olivia, now 10, was growing into a pretty child with a love for bright colours, high fashion and complaints. Despite the best tutors money could buy, she showed little interest in books. If she wasn't glued to a screen, she was rolling her eyes at someone. "I hate math," she'd yell. "Then focus on English," Dorcas would plead gently. But Olivia always found a reason to resist. Too tired, too hungry, too bored. Meanwhile, in another corner of Lagos, far from luxury, Hannah was turning heads at her local government school. At age 10, she was already tutoring older classmates and helping her teachers with lesson plans. She had read more books than most adults in her compound. And despite the hunger, the patched uniforms and the broken sandals, Hannah glowed. She was the kind of child who said, "Thank you, Ma," with her whole chest. The kind of child who mended her torn socks with thread and needle at night while reciting her times tables. Her mother, Sharon, watched her with pride that sometimes hurt. They had nothing, but Hannah had promise, and that promise kept them going. One dusty Saturday afternoon, fate stirred the pot. Dorcas had taken Olivia to a children's art fair on the mainland. On their way back, they got caught in unexpected traffic, and Dorcas decided to pass through a market road for a shortcut. They were just rounding a bend near a street gutter when Olivia screamed, "Mummy, look! That girl! She looks like she's in trouble!" Dorcas turned sharply. Sitting by the roadside was a young girl in a tattered cloth, clutching a woman who had fainted beside her. It was Hannah, and the woman lying unconscious on the ground was Sharon. Dorcas didn't think twice. She parked, jumped out and ran to them. "Baby, what happened?" she asked. "My mummy? She collapsed," Hannah stammered, tears in her eyes. "She was washing clothes for someone all day. She said her chest was tight. And... Don't cry," Dorcas said firmly, lifting Sharon's hand. "Help is here." Within minutes, she had called her driver and directed them to a nearby private clinic. She stayed until Sharon was admitted and put on a drip. Dorcas even paid the bills quietly and refused to give her full name. "I just did what anyone would do," she said when Sharon woke up and tried to kneel in gratitude. But as Dorcas watched the girl, this Hannah, sit quietly in the waiting room reading a tattered science textbook, something tugged at her heart. There was something about this child. A few weeks later, Dorcas arranged a scholarship slot for a brilliant child in Olivia's elite school, and without telling anyone, she submitted Hannah's name. Soon, Hannah started classes at the prestigious Bright Legacy Academy. The other students whispered about her local shoes and strange lunchbox, but Hannah didn't mind. She came to learn, and surprisingly, Olivia took a liking to her. They became study buddies. Where Olivia had once struggled to pass spelling tests, she was now winning class debates, with Hannah as her coach. Dorcas watched the bond blossom and felt a strange peace. But that peace didn't last long. Around this time, Jude began receiving anonymous letters in the mail, no return address, just one line written in red ink. "Your wife is not who she says she is. She's keeping something from you. Look deeper, Mr. Nwosu. Everything is not as it seems." He brushed off the first one, even the second, but by the third he began to wonder. When he showed Dorcas, she froze for a second, long enough for Jude to notice. "What?" he asked. "You look worried." "I'm not. It's just creepy. People are mad. Or they know something we don't." She looked at him sharply. "You're not listening to these lies, are you?" Jude paused. "Of course not. I trust you. I'm just uneasy." Unbeknownst to them both, Lady Ngozi was stirring waters in the background. She had never accepted Dorcas, not even after the baby, not even after 10 years of marriage and success. The idea that Dorcas now had full access to the Nwosu fortune and had produced the heir burned her like pepper in a fresh wound. So she whispered in Jude's ears when she could. Subtle things. Doubts. "Have you ever wondered why that child doesn't resemble anyone in this house? She talks like she's from somewhere else. You work too hard. You don't see what's happening under your nose." Jude would roll his eyes. "Mama, I beg." But in the quiet of night, he would stare at Olivia's baby pictures, wondering why he always felt slightly disconnected. Then came the day he picked Olivia up from school and saw her walking hand in hand with Hannah, laughing, skipping, happy. He tilted his head. Something strange clutched his chest. "Who's your friend?" he asked. "This is Hannah," Olivia said proudly. "She's my bestest friend in the whole world. She helps me with math." Hannah greeted him politely, her eyes calm and intelligent. Jude stared at her, really stared. Something about her face, her manner, her spirit felt familiar. He smiled tightly. "Nice to meet you." That night, Dorcas couldn't sleep. There was an uneasiness in her soul. A voice whispering that the life she thought was perfect was standing on a crack in the foundation. She got up and checked on Olivia. The girl was asleep, snoring lightly, hugging a stuffed bear. Then she peeked at home. One new message, another anonymous number. "The truth is closer than you think, and when it comes out, your home will scatter." Dorcas sat on the edge of the bed, heart pounding. She didn't know who was writing. She didn't know what they knew. But somehow, she sensed that something was off. It started with a fever, nothing alarming at first. Olivia complained of headache and body pain after school. Dorcas gave her paracetamol, thinking it was just stress or the weather. But by midnight, Olivia was burning hot. She was shivering and sweating at the same time, gasping like the air was too thick to breathe. "Mummy, my stomach, it's paining me," she whimpered, eyes half closed. Dorcas panicked. She bundled Olivia into the back seat, wrapped her in blankets and called the driver. Jude was away on a business trip in Port Harcourt. Her voice trembled as she left him a voicemail. "Baby, please call me. Olivia, something is wrong." At the hospital, doctors rushed her in. Blood pressure, dangerously low, pulse, weak. Diagnosis, acute anemia with possible infection. "She needs a transfusion immediately," the doctor said. "We need a blood match." Without thinking, Dorcas rolled up her sleeve. "Take mine." But minutes later, the nurse returned, confused. "Madam, you're not a match." "Then try the father's blood," Dorcas insisted. "My husband's." They ran Jude's stored medical records. Still no match. The doctor frowned. "Are you sure you're the biological parents?" Dorcas blinked rapidly, her heart thudding. "What kind of question is that?" "It's standard," the doctor said calmly. "Sometimes it just happens. We'll source from our blood bank now, but you may want to double-check things." Lady Ngozi was already at the hospital when the call reached her ears. She had always paid someone to feed her updates, drivers, staff, even nurses. When she heard the words blood mismatch, her eyes lit up. She made one phone call to her lawyer, then another to a private DNA lab. "Take samples discreetly," she said, "and don't let that village girl know. I want results, fast." Jude needs an evidence to finally throw that rat out. 2 days later, Olivia's condition stabilized after receiving blood from the hospital's bank. Dorcas stayed beside her throughout, refusing to leave her side even when she was urged to rest. But just as she leaned her head beside Olivia's pillow, her phone rang. It was Lady Ngozi. "Come to the house," she said coldly. "Now." Dorcas was too tired to argue. She left Olivia in the care of nurses and went. She arrived at the mansion to find Ngozi waiting like a lioness, eyes narrowed, envelope in hand. "Do you know what this is?" she said, waving it slowly. Dorcas stared. "What's this?" "Proof that you're a lying snake." Dorcas's heart skipped. "Excuse me?" "This is a DNA result," Ngozi spat. "And guess what? Jude is not the father of your so-called child, meaning only one thing: you cheated on him." Dorcas stumbled back as if slapped. "What are you saying? That's not possible! I knew it!" Ngozi barked. "From the day I saw that child's eyes, I knew. You came here with your village charm, trapped my son, and now you bring a bastard into this family? Not under my roof." Dorcas was speechless. Cold air rushed through her chest. She looked at the envelope but couldn't bring herself to touch it. "Mama, I swear on everything, I have never cheated on Jude. I don't know what this is. I don't know how." "Out!" Ngozi yelled. "Pack your things. Take that child and disappear before Jude returns. I will not let you disgrace this family anymore." Tears spilled down Dorcas's cheeks as she drove home. Her heart was pounding. Her thoughts were foggy. How? How could Olivia not be Jude's daughter? How could something so impossible become real? Still, with trembling hands, she packed a bag for herself and her daughter. She didn't argue. She didn't fight. She left with quiet dignity. When Jude returned from his trip 2 days later, he walked into a home that felt hollow. He noticed immediately The silence, the absence of baby toys, the missing slippers by the door. He found his mother sitting in the living room, drinking wine. "Where's Dorcas?" he asked. She didn't answer. "Mama," his voice grew stern. "Where is my wife?" "She's gone." He blinked. "Gone where?" "With her bastard child," Ngozi said coolly. "I asked her to leave after the DNA proved what I've always known. She cheated on you." Jude froze. "What are you talking about?" His mother handed him the envelope. "Read for yourself." Jude tore it open, eyes scanning. His breath caught, his hands trembled. This doesn't make sense." "Oh, it makes perfect sense," Ngozi sneered. "She fooled you, she used you, and you were blind." Jude stared at her for a long moment. Then something dark passed over his face. "You did this," he said quietly. "You've always hated her. You never gave her a chance." "And I was right," she snapped. "No," he said, his voice low and tight with rage. "You weren't. You never will be." He turned, grabbed his keys, and stormed out of the house. That night, Dorcas sat alone in a rented short-let apartment, Olivia asleep beside her. She looked at the child, the daughter she had carried, nursed, loved. Was it really true? She ran her fingers through Olivia's hair, then whispered with trembling lips, "Who are you?" The questions were too many, but one thing was certain: she would not rest until she found the truth. It was almost midnight when Jude finally found them. A tip from a friend had led him to a quiet, short-let apartment in Lekki Phase 2. He stood by the door for a moment, unsure if he should knock, unsure if she would even open the door. Then he heard a soft sob from inside, and that broke him. He knocked gently. "Dorcas," he called. "Please, it's me." The door opened slowly. She stood there in a wrapper, eyes swollen. Behind her, Olivia lay on a mattress, fast asleep. Dorcas didn't speak. She just looked at him, long and hard. "I didn't believe it," Jude said finally. "Not for 1 second. I know you. I know you would never. I know Olivia is ours. I don't care what some paper says." Her eyes welled up again. "But what if?" she whispered. "What if she isn't, Jude? What if there's something none of us understand?" He stepped forward, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Then we find out the truth. Together." The next morning, they began their search. Together, they began investigating. They returned to the hospital where Dorcas had given birth. After digging through hospital records and tracking down the retired nurse on duty that night, they finally uncovered the shocking truth. The nurse, now old and living in hiding, confessed that the babies had been deliberately swapped at birth. And worse, she hadn't acted alone. "I was paid to do it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "A woman came in days before the delivery. She showed me a picture of the couple and said, 'When the woman gives birth, make sure her child is given away. I'll reward you handsomely.'" She began describing the woman, her tone, her eyes, the way she spoke with quiet authority, and with every word, Dorcas and Jude exchanged glances. The description sounded so familiar, it did like someone they knew. When they showed her a picture of Jude's mother, the nurse nodded slowly. "That's her, she's the one." The revelation hit Jude like a punch to the gut. "My own mother?" She said the baby was a threat, that she was protecting the family's future. "I was desperate. I took the money, and I did what she asked. I've regretted it every day since." Dorcas stood up slowly, breathing hard. "What have you done?" "I'm sorry," the nurse whispered. "I truly am." Suddenly, Dorcas's phone rang. Unknown number. She glanced at Jude, then turned her back and answered quietly. "Hello?" A deep, distorted voice came through. "We have your daughter. Come alone. No police. No husband, or she dies. Address will follow shortly." The line cut. Dorcas froze. Her throat dried. Her fingers trembled around the phone. Her heart pounded like a war drum in her chest. She took a deep breath and returned to the room. "I need to clear my head," she said calmly. "Jude, I'll go back to the apartment. Let's talk tomorrow." Jude narrowed his eyes. "Are you okay?" She forced a smile. "I just need some air, please." He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll head home." Outside, they parted ways. Jude drove home, still haunted by the nurse's words. But something about Dorcas's tone, something in her eyes didn't sit right. Dorcas, however, didn't drive to the apartment. Instead, she followed the text message that arrived minutes after the call. It led her to a remote part of town, uncompleted building, standing alone on a dusty, weed-infested plot. As she parked and stepped out, her mind raced. She walked inside. The walls were bare. Cement dust floated in the air. Broken windows let in moonlight that fell in streaks across the floor. Then she saw them. 4 men, tall, broad, faces cold, and standing confidently among them with folded arms and a look of disgust was none other than Lady Ngozi, and tied to a wooden chair, whimpering softly. Olivia. Dorcas's breath caught in her throat. Olivia! She tried to run to her, but one of the men blocked her. What is this? This! Dorcas shouted. You're her grandmother. Ngozi stepped forward, her voice calm and poisonous. She is not my granddaughter, and you should have known your place. Dorcas's eyes were wild with rage. How could you be so evil? You were never supposed to last, Ngozi hissed. You were a mistake my son made during a moment of weakness. But you had his heart, and the child you bore. She threatened everything. She was a baby. She was a door, Ngozi snapped, to inheritance, to power. I couldn't let a village girl and her child steal what I deserved. Dorcas shook her head, tears brimming. You're evil. No, I'm practical. And now that you've started digging where you shouldn't, you leave me no choice. She turned to the men. Finish this, quietly. Dorcas gasped. Before she could scream, a hand grabbed her from behind. Dorcas's heart slammed against her ribs as the thugs closed in. Olivia sat trembling, her eyes red and puffy, lips quivering under the dirty cloth tied around her mouth. Dorcas tried to move toward again, but one of the men shoved her back, roughly. You're not going anywhere, he growled. Lady Ngozi stood still, calm as a vulture watching the dying. You shouldn't have dug into the past, Dorcas. This was never your world to begin with. Dorcas shook her head. You raised Jude. You looked into that child's eyes and plotted against her. How could you be so heartless? Ngozi's face twitched. I did what I had to do. That child you pushed out was a threat. If she grew up in that house, everything I've worked for would be gone. Do you think I spent my life raising a boy that wasn't mine, just to hand it all over to a child that wasn't even blood? Dorcas froze. What did you just say? But Ngozi caught herself and turned away. Enough talking. Do what you were paid for, she barked at the thugs. Meanwhile, back at the Nwosu residence, Jude sat alone, restless. Dorcas's words echoed in his head. Let's talk tomorrow. But her voice hadn't sounded normal. Her eyes had carried fear, not fatigue. His phone buzzed. A call from Olivia's school. Good evening, sir. We just wanted to follow up. Has your daughter been found? We were told she didn't return home today. What? Jude jumped up. What do you mean? She was supposed to be with Dorcas. Panic gripped his chest. He dialed Dorcas. No answer. Again, nothing. Something was terribly wrong. He grabbed his car keys and rushed out the door. As Jude sped down the highway, he called the police. My daughter's missing, possibly kidnapped. And my wife, she's not answering her phone. I need backup. He forwarded Dorcas's last known location via her car tracker. By the time he reached the half-completed building, 2 police vans were already pulling up behind him. They moved swiftly and silently. With torches off and guns drawn, the officers surrounded the building while Jude crept in through a side passage, led by a plainclothes officer. Inside, Dorcas had been shoved to her knees beside Olivia. A thug raised his belt. Let's make this fast. Dorcas shut her eyes and whispered, God, please. Then a loud crash. Police! Everybody freeze! In seconds, the room filled with shouts, flashing lights, and gun barrels. 2 thugs tried to run. One was tackled instantly, the other caught at the gate. Jude burst into the room. Dorcas! Olivia sobbed. Daddy! Dorcas broke into tears as Jude untied his daughter. I'm here now. One of the officers handcuffed Ngozi, who stood there glaring unrepentant. You'll regret this, Jude. You think you know everything, but you don't. He faced her squarely, holding Dorcas and Olivia close. No, Mama, the one who knows nothing was me. At the station later that night, the truth unraveled like a ripped wrapper in the wind. One of the officers stepped into the room with a file. Mr. Nwosu, you might want to see this. It was a sealed document Jude's late father had filed before his death. Something left untouched in the family lawyer's archives until now. The report contained the real story of his birth. Ngozi was not his biological mother. His real mother had died during childbirth, and his grieving father, desperate for help, married a woman who had once served as a housemaid to his late wife. That woman was Ngozi. She had played her role well, too well. Over the years, she built influence in the household and eventually manipulated Jude's father into writing her into his will. But his father wasn't entirely naive. He'd left a bulk of the inheritance to Jude in a trust, knowing Ngozie's ambition might one day go out of control. "She only raised you to protect her access to the wealth," the officer said. Jude's world went blank. The woman he had called Mama all his life was never truly his. Days later, in the quiet of their rebuilt home, Jude and Dorcas were beginning to heal. Olivia, still shaken, never left her mother's side. The results were clear, undeniable. Olivia was not Dorcas and Jude's biological daughter. Hannah was, the little girl raised in a small apartment in Mushin by a woman who had nothing, but gave everything. Dorcas stared at the papers, hands shaking, heart heavy. How could a truth so long hidden hurt and heal all at once? Jude said nothing, just quietly picked up the phone and asked for Sharon's address. Jude, Dorcas and Sharon sat across from each other, the DNA results between them like a wound ripped open. Dorcas tried to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. Instead, she looked at Hannah, her daughter. She had missed 10 birthdays, 10 bedtime stories, 10 first days of school, 10 years gone. And yet, here she was, standing, breathing, laughing, whole. Because Sharon had been there, Dorcas finally looked up. "You raised her well," she whispered. Sharon gave a shaky smile. "I tried. Even when we didn't have much, she gave me a reason to keep going." Jude's voice was low. "We owe you more than we can ever repay." There was a pause. Then Sharon turned to Hannah, the little girl she had unknowingly raised as her own for 10 years. She reached out and took her hand, brushing the hair from her face. "I don't care what any paper says. You will always be mine. I watched your first steps, wiped your tears, danced with you in the rain. Nothing can change that." Hannah's voice cracked. "Will I have to leave you?" Dorcas knelt beside them both. "No, my love, you don't have to do anything until you're ready. Family isn't just about who gave birth to who, it's about who showed up. And she did." Sharon smiled, tears spilling. "Same goes for Olivia. You're her parents, but she's my heart. Let's not break it trying to fix the past." The room fell quiet with comfortable peace. The kind of peace that comes with understanding. They made a decision together. Yes, the girls would eventually go back to their biological parents, but only when their hearts were ready. There would be no force, no pressure. From that day on, both homes would be open. Olivia would always have a bed at Jude and Dorcas's house, and Hannah would always have a place in Sharon's arms. They were no longer strangers pulled apart by a cruel mistake. They were family, by choice. To honor Sharon's sacrifice, Jude made sure she never returned to poverty again. He bought her a 2-bedroom flat in a safer area, helped her set up a catering business, and registered her in a women's empowerment program through his foundation. Sharon didn't take it as charity. She took it as dignity restored. Months passed. The girls visited each other often. They called each other sister without hesitation. At school, they sat side by side. On weekends, they'd switch homes, laughing, playing, blending the lives they had with the lives they found. One night, Dorcas watched them through the window, Hannah teaching Olivia how to braid a doll's hair. Jude came beside her. "Funny how something so broken could become this beautiful." Dorcas nodded, tears brimming. "Maybe God doesn't give us back what we lost. Maybe he gives us something new, something deeper." And so from pain came peace. From brokenness, a new kind of family was born. This story reminds us that love isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who stayed, who cared, and who chose to love anyway. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done if you were in Dorcas's shoes? Drop it in the comments below. And hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that moves you.